In this video, I will guide you through the R graphical user interface. I will show you how to write code one line at a time in R console. This is very useful for experimenting with new code or figuring out and understanding code that other people have written. We will explore help functions in R. You will learn how to write a script and how to write a function. These are excellent strategies for reusing code in R. Let's start exploring R. Start R now. This is what you should see, the R graphical user interface. Pause the film now and then, so you have time to try what I'm showing you. I will start by looking at the R console. In the R console, you can type expressions, and when you click enter, R will evaluate your expression. Try a few mathematical operations. Usually it's not very practical to read the result of your expression on the screen. You will want to continue calculating with the result. So it's very common to direct the result into an object. I can create an object by typing a new name, such as A. Then I use the assign to fill A with some content. For instance, a mathematical expression. When I push enter, R remains silent. But if I type A and enter, I will see that the content of A is now the evaluated expression. I can use a function called C, or combine, to enter a whole row of numbers into A. Now A is a vector containing all of these numbers. R is good at vector operations. Look at this, A plus 12. This will add the number 12 to every position in the vector A. I can of course assign the result of a vector operation into a new object, like this. So let's talk more about functions now. You can recognize a function because it has a name and it's always followed by soft brackets. Plot is a function. Inside these brackets, you write the so-called arguments. So plot needs an argument. Now I will try to put in the object A as an argument for plot. And this will draw for me a graph where the x-axis is the index position in A and the y-axis is the value of A. Plot is a function that will work differently depending on what arguments I pass. So I can also pass two objects like A and B. And this will give me a scatter plot where I get the value of A as the x-axis and the value of B as the y-axis. R contains a lot of statistical functions, and very often you can actually guess the name of this function. So, for instance, if you want to calculate the mean of all the values inside A, try to type mean and enter A. And this is going to work for a lot of your guesses. Sometimes you encounter code that you don't understand. I encourage you to be brave and just try it in the R console. Look at this, for instance. This complicated code seems to yield a histogram of some kind. What I recommend to you is to start exploring by typing into the R console small pieces of this code. So I see that this expression seems to have 3 functions, and the center function here seems to be called rnorm, and it has 10,000 as its argument. I can run this one piece at a time and then start figuring out what the pieces of code does. So rnorm seems to yield a lot of numbers, 10,000 numbers. So if I type arrow up, I can find all of my commands that I already wrote. I will now put the result of rnorm 10,000 into an object for more easy handling. And now I can explore the content of rnorm. For instance, what's the mean of R? Seems to be close to 0. And what's the standard deviation of x? 1. So if exploring a function doesn't help, then I suggest that you use the built-in help function in R. It's easy. You type question mark, the name of the function, and don't forget to add the brackets. I push enter, and now I will be directed to the to a HTML page that contains the documentation for this plot function. It's best to use this built-in help function, because when I do this, I'm sure that I will be directed to the documentation relevant for my current installation of R. These documentation pages are not very useful for learning statistics. It's just explaining the R function. So it starts by stating the name of the function and what package the function belongs to. This is followed by a description, usage, showing the name of the function and a number of the arguments that the function takes, description of the arguments, and usually in the end, if the author was kind enough, there are examples. So I also recommend to you to use the function example. Look at this. You can type example followed by brackets, and as an argument for the function example, you put in the name of a function. Now, if you are lucky, you will get a number of examples from the documentation pages. You should continue exploring the R graphical user interface now, so you get really comfortable with R.